right. Welcome to the Death and Disco podcast, where we talk about embracing death to make the most of your one precious life. Today, we're going to talk about something just as taboo as death. Can you guess it? It's money. Yes. And we're bringing on Jess Uyeno to have this conversation. Jess is a mentor to the most interesting women in the world. She went from broke ass single mom to accidentally buying mansions and working 10-hour work weeks by creating the equation of her most interesting life and taking the most fun and unreasonable path there. She helps successful women rewire their time and master the 6 money games while constantly reminding herself we're not promised tomorrow. And asking, what's the best that could happen? Welcome, Jess.
So much. All the taboo questions just right out the gate.
You know it, girl. So just a little backstory on how I met Jess. We have the same mentor, Shoshana Raven. Little shout out for Shosh. And we connected on a 2-hour bus ride in Puerto Rico. And I just remember you looking at me with like tears in your eyes, but not sad tears. They were tears of gratitude just around like the beauty of life and the magic. And, I could just feel that visceral connection that you have to appreciation for this existence. And I think I asked you like how you kind of got that. And you said it was by contemplating your mortality, recognizing that we're not promised tomorrow. So can you just tell us a little bit about this practice and how it came to be and how you incorporate that into your life?
Yeah, I just love the idea of living in the duality of life always. With anything that I love, I believe and I'm constantly finding evidence to support the idea that the opposite of a universal truth is also true. So
Mm.
if life is the sweetest thing ever, then it's only made sweet because, of course, of the promise of death that we all have, of our mortality, of our fragility, of the existence that we have to, of course, in order to get through the day, in order to make plans, in order to have success, we have to stop thinking about it on the regular. We can't get into our car and think, oh, I might not get to my destination, right? We would be paralyzed. We can't do that. But there are little moments throughout my day when I do allow myself to think, this could be it. And how would I want to show up if that were the case? I know the common one that people always say, like, oh, I do that too, is when they give you the last call to shut off your phone before your plane's about to take off. And you're like, I just have to text. Like, I text my husband and I text my mom and my dad, right? And I'm like, I love you. And like, I love you. And it's just kind of like, to me, that would be the last thing that I would have wanted to say. And also, yeah, I do it in my daily practice of just anytime anyone in my house leaves the house. Like if my kids are leaving the house or my husband's even going for a run, they're not allowed to leave the house without giving me a hug. And it has to be like a hug. Like my son, when he leaves for the bus stop, he has to hug his sister. And like, we've just brought it all as a part of a practice that it makes you be like, ah. And also, I have a blended family. My son goes back and forth between his dad's house and mine. And so because of that, the death of the nucleus of my family, when it was rewritten, and I just really didn't have the things that we all take for granted of just being able
Mhm.
to see our children every day. I don't have that. And so from an early time with my own family, like I really had come to be like, like I want to be as present and as grateful as possible, as often as possible. And death is just the easiest way to do it.
I love that. I really resonate with the way that you talk about it being like the duality of the universe. It's like we almost need to like I think of like the human existence and just like consciousness. It's like we need to like be here on earth and we need to have like an ego to experience ourselves.
Yeah.
So or like we need to experience sad emotions in order to understand what good emotion or is I don't want to use the word good. Like lighter happiness, joy feels like. So it is. I think death and life are like is the most extreme
Mhm. It
duality.
is. And we try and avoid thinking about it because we associate death with sadness. But I think the more you contemplate it, the more you think about it, the more you think about it outside of context. So
Mhm.
obviously, when you're forced to think about death because of the loss of someone that you love, that's not the first place, ideally, that you wanna be contemplating really, like, who you wanna
Yeah,
be and how you wanna be showing up, and unfortunately, most people are finding you, I would imagine, because they're, like, just starting their journey of contemplating their mortality and how they wanna live, stripped of the things that don't matter,
totally.
and I just think, like, we should all be doing this work before we inevitably lose someone that we love or die ourselves.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think everyone's entryway into the work is different, but you did mention, and I wanna get into your story in a second, just about how, like, the dissolution of, like, your nuclear family made you more grateful for or for the one that you had, like, later, maybe in a different form,
Mhm,
but there's a concept in psychology called the subtraction effect, and it's exactly this. It's like we only notice, the value of something until it's gone. And so that's why bringing mortality and thinking about your death into your life as a daily practice does make us naturally more grateful because we stop taking our breath every
mhm.
morning for granted. So, yeah, I think it's like some of us wake up to it and through experience, and I guess the point of this podcast and this conversation is to start right now.
Yeah.
Right here, invitation.
Can we talk about, and you kind of mentioned all the time in your work, this idea that when you experience death, that all of a sudden it just snaps into reality what matters and what doesn't matter. And
Yeah,
I think a very controversial thing that starts to be questioned in that process is money. How much does money matter? Like what matters here, right?
right.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, and so I, as someone who teaches women how to master their money in a very playful way, but also like in a mathematical financial literacy. I'm very passionate about all of that because of my story, which I guess maybe I should get into now.
Yeah, we can get into your story. I wanted to and then we'll go into more of, like, the money mindset stuff because I think the idea of money mattering is a huge one. But, yeah, let's understand who you are and how these experiences have shaped you. You told me that you experienced both a physical death and a metaphorical death. The
Mhm.
physical one being of a mentor and then who actually passed away, and then the dissolution of your marriage, the death of your marriage and who you were in that. So, yeah, I'd love to hear how both of those experiences shaped who you are and really how you see the world. Like, I think it'd be helpful to give people a bit of a before and after.
Yeah. So I think that the death that changed me more was actually the metaphysical death because
Mhm.
it happened first, and right, it was just basically getting divorced, and getting divorced with a child, and having this whole future life that we build out in our minds of, okay, we've made this commitment, this is the future that we're building. And then when you separate or when you get divorced, it's like so confusing because most people look at it and they think, oh well, you've only been married for maybe four and a
Mhm.
half years. We were together for 9.5 years. And alimony says that, like, that's not that much, right? That the law and all of that, right, will say like that's not really that long. But to me, what felt the most painful was the death of that future,
Mhm.
and the death ultimately of like the safety of what I thought was happening. And I know most people do experience that, whether they are losing someone through divorce, which is maybe a choice, maybe not a choice,
Yeah.
or death, right? If you all of a sudden are uncoupling in whatever way, there becomes this very real, like, okay, well, I like what how do I plan for my future financially by myself?
Yeah.
And I just realized at that moment, like, wow, I had been abdicating a lot of responsibility of just the thinking of the finances to my ex husband. And I was really quite embarrassed as an overeducated woman with a degree, and a lot of even family members who were like in the finance world, and was realizing, wow, they were having all these conversations with my brother and not with me. Like,
That's
what is
right.
that about? And I just felt really, really alone and isolated and unsure and confused. And I was looking for safety. And I think that that can be one of the reasons why people do end up saying money matters, right? Is the survival piece at
Yes.
first.
Mhm.
But yeah, for me, I also knew that like I wasn't someone who was just going to be like, well, because I'm divorced, I'm going to settle and I'm going to get into a financial situation, like a career, or make some decisions just to survive. I knew that wasn't going to be me. And so it just brings up a lot of good questions of like, like how do we create and build our most interesting life and like think about the future while also like keeping what matters most to us at the forefront.
Totally. Well, wait, but what were you doing before your divorce? Like, what was your like, who were you? What was your job?
Well, I was a fitness coach, but I was a stay-at-home
Me too.
mom too. Yeah, so I was doing fitness coaching, but I was, I was doing it through Beachbody, so
Yeah.
through multi-level marketing, and I really enjoyed that. It was perfect for me, but like my total income for the year at the time that we split was about $18,000.
Mhm.
Like it was not enough to obviously provide a living and pay for rent and my whole life for me and my child in New York.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I loved my life, but I was also like I was building something, I was writing, I was blogging as a happiness scientist. So um I
Yeah.
I had discovered and I was like on to, okay, like there's a more interesting way to approach life. And I had the luxury at that time of planning with my ex-husband was providing for most of our
Right.
financial life, and I was providing for most of the childcare. Like I was full time at home with our son. He was not in any daycare. We couldn't afford any of that.
Mhm.
So when we split, that really had to change immediately.
Right, but so this is what I think is really interesting and what I really want our listeners to hone in on is, like, often we go through these experiences where, yes, they are awful. You didn't wanna or I don't know how it all went down where, like, most people don't want their lives to end in divorce. We
Of
think
course.
white picket fence, we want the future, right? You said the loss of the future was the hardest part, the loss of stability that comes, like, all of those invisible losses that you don't even think about. There is real grief and pain when we go through something like that, and at the same time, if you can meet these deaths, not just with seeing the devastation and the disappointment that life didn't go the way that we wanted to, but to see it as a rebirth opportunity. Because
Mm,
death is the womb and the tomb are one and the same, right? So as the old way is dying, your old life is dying, a new one is emerging. And
mm,
so I think the invitation is to see every disappointment in life as kind of like this, okay, this sucks. It didn't go the way I wanted it to, but how can I alchemize this into something beautiful as a reinvention of myself or as a remembrance of myself?
mm,
And you kind of, it's what it sounds like is you looked at the gaps in the financial education or where you were there and you kind of turned that into an opportunity into something that you would help others with, which is very chiron, very wounded healer of you.
yeah, I don't think that was my initial
No,
intention. I certainly loved helping women. I was helping them with their fitness, but I think I was always a very open book, and so people kind of knew that I was in this predicament, and people wanted to pity me. Like I'm sure that people listening can relate to that. If you've lost someone very close to you, it's like I'm trying to get to this place of really, like you said, alchemizing and shifting my brain on a daily basis to the future. I need to do my work of putting a future into my brain. Like I had no clue what the future was going to look like. And that's where I think a lot of people stay for a while because they're
Yeah.
grieving so intensely that they're like, I can't imagine a future. And I just said, okay, well, I don't want to spend my time rethinking about all that I have lost. I really want to spend all of my time, as much conscious time as I get. And I did think about my mortality a lot. I thought, like, okay, what if I die within this year? Do I really want to be like, have a whole year being like, well, I was just grieving my marriage? I was like, yes, I can grieve my marriage and I
Yes,
can think
and
about this beautiful life that I am that is inevitable for me. And I
yeah,
think money was an easy, tangible place to focus because I just didn't accept like I was looking all around for like single moms who were thriving financially and there were none. And I was just,
where
oh
is the
my God,
evidence?
like,
Which our mind
please
does, yeah.
someone show me that like I can crush it. And I was like, I guess I need to put that into my vision. Like I need to be the example of just wealth and like navigating something kind of while you're grieving your marriage.
I think this is really key, what you just said right there is, like, noticing the gap. Like, our mind wants to go to, evidence that what we have in our mind is going to work, and you didn't get that, so you were like
Yeah.
instead of being like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't do that," it's like, "How about I just be that? How about
Yeah.
I be that abundant single mom?" Right? Like,
Until I realized
this is
that
huge.
two skills out there that you can develop. It's like either you can get really good at finding evidence and pointing your brain at it and believing
Mhm.
in the evidence that is out there, or you can practice believing in a future with zero evidence that it's possible. And that is the most
That's the
underrated
flex.
skill. It's such a flex, and I think that it's, like, the greatest gift I ever gave myself was permission to believe that, like, you don't need evidence in order to believe something. You don't have to wait until you find someone out there to do it, and then I started looking out to all these other people, not necessarily who were doing anything with my circumstances, but that were creating realities that they didn't have evidence for,
Yeah.
like, the first
Mhm.
to take their paths, and I gained inspiration from that. I was just like, "Oh,
Totally.
it's possible because that's how we evolve, is
Right.
someone has to go first."
Yeah, and I think we get so caught up in the minutia of how it's going to work. I know when I was starting
Mm,
Move Through, it was like, I just need to help one person, and that was, like, enough. And I was like, I'll
mhm,
figure out the rest as I go, and it's funny because as I got further away from death, from Ian's death, and, I pivoted my business the past 3 years, it's almost like I've slowed myself down so much
mhm,
because my, perfectionist brain and the part of me that needs to figure it out has definitely come online even more. There's
mm.
something about, like, rock bottom that I just feel like is, like, so liberating because you've already
Yeah,
lost it all, and it's just like, "Fuck it." Like, "Why not?" You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like,
I
and
know,
that's what death does, like
I agree. I think that my ex-husband and I still talk every day. We share a child together. Our son is 9. We split when he was 2. And so like we will every once in a while talk about these things that like we thought that we resented the other person for not doing that we thought they should be doing in the marriage.
Yes. Yes.
And then what happens when you are on your own is you end up having to do all the things
All of
and
it, yeah.
and what's so freeing about that is, like, you're actually less exhausted doing it on your own because you're not exhausted by your thoughts of
Mhm.
resentment of thinking someone else should be helping you. You're just like, "Well, I just gotta do it."
Okay, so I love that, like, comeback story. I really feel like the challenges that we go through in our life are a part of our purpose, like, the
Mm,
things that we have skin in the game with, where we've just gained, like, real lived wisdom by
mhm.
experiencing it is, like, what we're meant to help people with. So, it's like none of this happens by coincidence. Like, I really think it's all a part of our purpose and our soul's path on
I
Earth.
know
To be a
that
little spiritual, but
Cheryl Strayed says a lot that she believes that she is a better person because her mom died, and,
Mhm.
that she's like, "I hate this, and I wish it weren't true," but, like,
Right.
it just is true. There's something that changes, there's something that makes you a version of yourself that you couldn't have become unless you had lost it all, everything that you valued on
Yeah.
earth, and even though, like, Dawson didn't die, right? Like, our marriage, our relationship, our future together did, and that was in some ways just made me be like, I don't I don't wanna get to this place where, like, I let things decay that are in my control. So all of
Mhm.
a sudden, like, the hyper presence becomes really important. The alignment in your days, in your calendar, in the way you're using your money, obviously, and making your money, become just the most important things.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second and get into, like, money mindset stuff because we alluded to it a little bit earlier around how death strips away everything that's false, meaning, like, all the things that used to seem so big and that they mattered suddenly don't. I know I absolutely felt that way when Ian died. I was like I mean, I remember the second he got diagnosed with cancer, he quit his job because it was like the dreams of climbing the corporate career and making a shit ton of money were like, why? Like, it just seems
Yeah.
trivial when your, like, life is on the line, and so, it sounds like for you, the stripping away of the white picket fence life, the future that you wanted, really forced you then to reevaluate what actually matters to me,
Mhm, mhm.
and, um, to you, it was, like, the alignment, and yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that fortunately for me, I already was doing work that I really loved and
Mhm.
right, okay, we can label it fitness coaching, but I was doing more than that in like where I was going. I had just stumbled across life coaching. People kept asking me like, "What do you charge for your life coaching?" And this was at a time when like
It wasn't
I
even like
didn't know what a life coach was really. I
yeah.
finally had to Google it and be like, "What is a life coach? What do they charge?" Because people keep asking me for it, and so I just through that work and through having discussions with people, I was working with people on their fitness, but really what we were talking about was like their motivation, their prioritization of themselves and what matters to them. I was speaking to a lot of women who on paper had the things, right? They had the jobs, they had
Yeah.
the relationships, they had checked the boxes, but they didn't know how to prioritize in their day to day what mattered to them. And so I had already started to do this work. So it was less of like, do I, don't I? But now I didn't have the privilege of like time for it to work. I needed to have the
Figure it
money
out.
figured out quickly. And also, there was so much I didn't know. And this is why I'm so passionate about financial literacy for women because we're like, and no one is really taught financial literacy, even like anyone. It's not something we're taught in school. However, I think that men are ahead in that they're just like having these conversations with their
Yeah.
friends, with their brothers, with their dads and their grandfathers, and women just don't talk about money as much. Even successful women.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and so for me, my real moment was kind of like, okay, I know
Got
that
it.
these are the rules of life. Like I need to live my most interesting life. I don't know how long I have. I could die this year. I kept saying that to myself like if I knew that I was going to die this year, would I still make this decision? And so it's going back and I say like zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, making these decisions.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how did you do that without falling into scarcity? Because I feel like that's what's when it comes to money. Because I heard you say I needed to make it fast, like, and that was the gap that the
Mhm.
metaphorical death brought you into is like, okay, I can't just like fuck around and like fitness coach here. Like I need
Mhm.
to like make this profitable and I need to make it profitable now. So
Yeah.
how did you hold the tension of like I still want to live my most interesting life and staying in that alignment with like that frequency and
Mhm.
not getting like and because I for me, I'd be like, I just need to I'd get so tied up into the money, like, I need to make it now.
Yeah, I was, don't get me wrong, like, I was very scared, so I think part of it was I became obsessed with my own like wealth journey. And I think everyone should at least spend a year doing this. And first of all, it's going to require you not thinking that money is the root of all evil and getting rid of any stories. I didn't really have any negative stories around money. My family always talked about money in a very healthy way. It was like money doesn't get like money doesn't make you happy, but it doesn't suck. That was like something my dad said all of the time.
Yeah.
And he did also model like he didn't stress if something came up, he'd be like, this is what money is for. And then he would just like he very much focused on the earnings game and he was in sales. So similar to entrepreneurship, like he just focused fully on the earnings game. What I learned in this moment was okay, there's actually more money games than just earning, which is what I was taught heavily. So like I
Yeah.
had good skills with earning. Like at that point, what kept me out of scarcity was I was a bartender, I was a server, I would pick up random shifts, I was a singer, I would get paid to sing, I had done event planning, so I would pick up a thing, but I knew that I wasn't going to, like, take a job and table what really mattered to me. I was gonna build what really mattered to me, but I was gonna prioritize keeping the lights on
So what I
with
hear is you're not selling out just for money. It had to be aligned to with
Mhm.
you in some sort of a way. Like, it had to, like, fill your cup, not just financially.
Yeah, and at the
Stamp.
same time, I was not going to let me and my son be homeless. I was not going to, like I was just, like, willing to be really scrappy. Before I had my son, I had lived in Peru at a youth hostel off of $1,000 for 4 months. Like,
Yeah.
I knew how to kind of, like, live on a shoestring budget, and I see a lot of people that I work with on their things, like, they get entitled to these things that they think are necessities that really aren't financial
Yeah.
necessities. And that can really hurt you because they're overspending, they're getting into debt, and they're like, how do I get out of this? I never would let myself get into debt that I couldn't pay off.
Right. I think this is really key though. Like, what I think it's like distinguishing what's like a need versus a want, like what's
Mhm.
actually going to send you into like poverty and unsafety
Yeah.
versus like I can't handle not having my nails done every week. Or like,
Yeah.
right?
I
Like,
did get my nails done.
yeah.
I did not dine out, like, at all. I mean, I remember when my son was little, my, like, biggest splurge I would, like, cry for it was going to the drive-through at Starbucks because my son would nap and he would fall asleep, and it was really just about, like, leaving the house. It was, like, my outing for myself, but we're talking, like,
Yeah.
spending more than $25 in a month on a latte.
Yeah, but I think this is really good because I think, like, so yeah, like understanding the need versus the want, and then like fueling your passion in the life that you want to build versus like quick fixes to just pay the bills. Because I
Yeah,
think that's where we start to get in a that's when life can become really unfulfilling and we get resentful and we get trapped by money. I want to drop that story of the girl um who I did a death ceremony with, and this is like a journey where I basically bring my clients into like a visualization that they're lying on their deathbed and looking at their life from the end. And
Mhm.
she just was so upset and resentful and guilty because she had felt like she had lived so much of her life attached to work. And I think so many of us do that because we've been programmed to choose safety and comfort and what's responsible over what actually fucking lights us up in life. And then we end up, living our lives that way. Like we've been programmed. So yeah, I want to dive into like this, how this happens and why does this happen and how do we
Yeah.
detach ourselves from this story?
Well, I think that it requires us to not be so black and white about you have to choose between
Mhm.
either being financially secure or living your dream life.
Right.
That's how society has presented it to you. It's like
Yeah.
which matters, which is why growing up, I would say things like money, I don't think money matters that much to me because out of the two, I was choosing art, I was choosing my purpose, I was willing to live without material things. The older that I got, once you have children, I wanted to provide for my son things that maybe didn't matter as much to me before then. And so then I was like, okay, is there a world where there's an in between where, you can work and find ways to bring in money and to meet certain goals and needs and to build what actually matters to you. And so I think that a couple of things need to happen. Number one, it's really important for you to not identify with where you're at financially. I never identified as struggling, starving, broke single mom. I
Mhm.
never ever said that. Not to
Mhm.
myself in my brain, and I think that that's where a lot of people get stuck because you're trying to out action an identity that you think is who you are right now.
Mm,
And
mm. Oh,
so
I've got an identity I need to release around that.
yeah, yeah, I think we all, like, especially those of us who didn't have super, healthy and when I say healthy, I don't mean, like, rich or poor, I mean, like, that you feel good when you think about money or talk about money growing up, like, as a child. Like, money
Mhm.
to me was always just, like, about freedom and fun. And that's what it was. And so
Awesome.
my dad taught me at a super young age, you want to learn how to make money because making money is fun. The
Yeah.
process of going out there, doing something, and then receiving a check for it, like that feels good. And I loved that from like as early as I
Yeah.
could. And the other thing that I think is really important that will help you get out of this like feast and famine, like I feel so good about my art, or like I need to like switch gears and focus on the money, is then also thinking about, so you have the identity piece of like, I just decided like I am going to be wealthy, but there were
Mhm.
obvious gaps. And so I needed to like really understand the financial literacy, because like if you don't understand how to bridge those gaps, you can manifest things, short term, but like you don't feel safe. Even
Right.
once you've manifested something, you're like, but this feels like a fluke. This feels like it's not who I
Like
am.
lucky. Yeah. Like winning the lottery.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I came to really I just became obsessed with asking questions about personal finance. I listened to personal finance podcasts, highly recommend Personal Finance Club podcast, highly recommend the Boglehead's Guide to Investing. I have really simple, easy to understand, no high maintenance philosophies and practices in each of the money games, which I'll say right now are earning, spending, saving, investing, having money, so like the net worth game, and
Mhm.
giving money. And
Mhm.
all of us, as you go through that list, have some that you already probably feel pretty comfortable with. Some people are like, I'm really good at spending. But I was like, how much? Like the most basic things of like, what does my life cost? I didn't know.
Right.
And I was like, how do I know if I'm on track to be able to afford college for my son? I
Yeah.
don't know. And so I just became really obsessed with learning, not out of a scarcity place, but from an identity building
Mm.
place.
That's
I
key.
want to become someone who is safe because I am recession proof. I know how to pivot. I can handle any circumstance because I know what to do next.
Yeah, so you were following, like, the be, do, have. I'm gonna be a wealthy woman, and then the do is,
Mhm.
like, what do I need? How does a wealthy woman move through the world? Well, she
Mhm.
fucking knows what she's talking about when it comes
Yeah.
to money. So
Yeah.
you learned that, and then you started to see the results. I think a lot of us get manifestation wrong, where it's just like, "Oh, it's just an energetic," and it's like, no, you have to actually show up and do the things. But, before I really wanna get into, like, money stories. I know I struggle a lot with money stories, so what are some of the most common ones that you see with your clients? Because
Okay.
I'd love it if what we could do is, like, strip away, like, the meaning that we here's why I wanna talk about this in the context of YOLO and you
Yeah.
have one life to live, right? Is because I see a lot of I see an issue with our society is that we tend to project onto money that it is freedom, it is fun, it is joy, it's all of these things, it's the dream life, and if you don't have money, then you're fucked. But
Yeah.
that mentality, while it could be partially true, is also like the very thing that traps us. It keeps us on the hamster wheel of doing, of productivity, of hustle, of all of these things. And it's like, again, coming back to like death strips away anything that's false into what really matters. So it's like this, I tend to have this inner battle with myself of like money matters, but it doesn't matter
Yeah. I think that
because of
that's
these, the way, what we project onto money.
totally. And I think that that's just a healthy place to stay. It matters and it doesn't matter. Now, you are toggling back and forth as if one of them is more true than the other. They're
Hmm.
just both true, but money both totally matters and it doesn't matter. And I think that when you're zooming out and zooming in, and depending on what you're focused on, one of those beliefs is going to be more important to like focus
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
But I don't think that they're competing, right? Like the opposite of a universal truth is also true. So
Love
yeah.
love it.
So if I believe that like money really matters, I have a whole podcast where I talk about how much money matters. Like stop pretending money doesn't matter because and I have four grandmas, right? Like my grandparents both were divorced and remarried and I have four grandmas that I have a relationship with and they both had really unique and interesting, especially the timing that where that when they were young women and their relationship with money is both unique. One of my grandmas is black, so her relationship with money is obviously very nuanced. And one of my grandmas was divorced, not by her choosing, and had four kids. And she had to work like jobs that were more traditionally men. She was a tiler, laying tile, and she was bartending, and she was, a single mom of four. And a woman at a store, she was going to buy her kids clothes for the start of school, and women couldn't have credit card. This was, I
Mhm.
think, a year and a half before the law passed when women could have their own bank account.
Yeah.
But because they were divorced, it was all her money, but it had to be in my grandfather's name, the bank account. And so it said his name on the credit card. My grandma's very overly trusting and naive to a point, and she was just chatting with the woman at the counter at, I think, Macy's. And she was saying, oh, I need to get this for the kids. And she was like, where's your husband? She was sensing by her stories that like she
Mhm. Mhm.
wasn't married, and she was like, "Oh, we're not together." And the woman cut up her credit card in front of me.
What?
"You are not allowed to have this and be spending his money." And she was like, "It's my money." And that was like her entire attachment
Yeah.
to safety was in
Yeah.
that card, and she couldn't get a new one because their marriage, and she was Catholic, they couldn't get it annulled. It was like so scary.
Yeah.
And when I think about the privileges and the opportunities we have as women to like move money and to impact society with the ways that we use money and think about money, I think of it as a responsibility to my grandmothers. And I think like it really matters. And they weren't able to do this and we're able to do this. Like, don't say it doesn't matter. And at the same
Yeah.
time, like I don't I don't need any more dollars than I have in the bank right now. I could never make another dollar more than what I'm earning, like never increase my revenue. And like I could even have it dip and it would just be totally fine. I could live off of it. But
Right.
that's not the point because
Mm.
if anything, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Like that's just true across all mediums that we're talking about. So it's like, yeah, how can you make it about, well, if it's not about survival, if it's not about making more money, what are you getting paid for?
Right. Well, what was just coming through for me is kind of going back to your comment about how you were able to live on a shoestring budget. And I think it's almost it like if you can access a place within you where you realize that you are safe without money, where you
Mhm,
are free without money, where you are you without it, right? Because our identity can get attached. You're worthy without it, right? Like I
mhm,
think we need to like almost create that foundation within ourselves
mhm,
because that's when the attachment and the stories really start to come in. It's like
mhm.
seeing it as two different, being able to separate those things from money. Because like, what would you define as money, anyways? Like what, like the currency we.
Yeah, the currency we use to live the life that we wanna live. But, like, again, it depends on which of the 6 money games. Because like, now at this point, I'm thinking way more intentionally about the giving game, and I think about how I was walking out of the grocery store the other day, and there was people from care.org, and, they I was like, "Yeah, I've got some time," and it was raining, and no one was stopping, and these people are there, like, spending their time, their lives, like, doing good for others, and I was like, it's my responsibility. I think about this with money and time. It's the two core things that I teach my clients for as a path to living their most interesting life. It's like it is your responsibility to get abundant with money and with time so that you can be the person that you want to be. And so when I think
Mhm.
about like, oh, I don't need these things. Yeah, I don't need it, but other people need it. And I want to be a vehicle for that. I want to be someone who, when I'm asked to give and the cause really aligns with my heart, that I both have the time and money in spades to be able to stop, like fill out the forms, let the credit card thing have a malfunction and still be able to contribute.
Like, and I'm thinking a lot of like what Shosh teaches us too. It's like being that frequency of abundance in order to magnify it your way. Like, you have to kind of be okay with what is. I don't know. I mean, does that
Yeah,
show
like,
like
how do you
like
focus on growing while celebrating
bringing in more wealth from a place of already enough and I am okay versus like, I need this to survive.
Yeah.
Is that a practice you walk your clients through, or I don't know, I'm just curious?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just always is a state. I just dropped an audio training today with my students about this idea because we just focused this week a lot on numbers and accountability to math. I love math as a portal to making something simpler in our brain. It's
Mhm.
like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. What are you committed to selling today? And if it's $200 that you're committing to selling today, go just sell that, right? It's simpler in terms of action. Our brain loves a very simple problem. But I said sometimes, right, on the back end of focusing so much on the math, we can falsely then be thinking of only about the receiving. And here's the thing, right? We always say we live in the duality. The opposite of receiving is giving. And so I
Mhm.
say, like, when you're selling, to me, it's not separate from selling is serving, serving is selling. And I always say you should be selling from your welcome energy. I don't like when I see these small businesses being like, thank you. Thank you for your business. Thank you for shopping with us. It's like, yes, of course, gratitude, but that's implied. I'm like, you're welcome for buying from me because you're about to, because I'm focused on what you're about. You're welcome for paying me because I'm focused about what you're about to receive from this
Mhm.
transaction. And when you're
Mhm.
focused on what the other person is going to receive from your
Mhm.
transaction, the money like matters the least, you know?
Right, right.
That was
It's
how
literally just the exchange, like the energetic exchange.
Yeah, and I remember in the beginning, there was this client who I had, and I very much needed every single dollar, quote unquote,
Mhm.
like legitimately needed every dollar in order to pay my bills. And it was just me, and I felt very, scarcity. And her credit card bounced, and I knew that she had the money, but she was just kind of like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I have to update my credit card," and I felt resentment, I felt fear, I felt all the things that were coming up because I was very attached to it being her job, my client's job, to be responsible for my money. And I think
Mhm.
that when you as a whole start seeing like, okay, I can set a goal, and whether it's you're in early stage goals of survival or thriving goals, you're like, I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to be committed to this goal, and I'm not so attached to the how. Like, I cannot say that I need it to come in through all of the expected ways, but I trust that I have the ability to create this goal no matter what. So when it didn't come in, instead of being someone who is like, I have to turn into a version of myself that I don't really love to get someone to pay me on my timeline.
Mhm.
There's balances there too, right? Because you want to have
Mhm.
good policies and standards. It helps breed good culture, and it helps teach other people good lessons in stewarding their own money too. So
Mhm.
I could go down that road. But instead, I said, like, I want to be so overflowed in money. And that also requires me to be spending conservatively so that I always do have a buffer, and I'm creating that so that like I could allow for life to life, and I don't get so attached to what other people are doing in order for me to receive what I want to receive.
Mhm.
As soon as I let go of the need for that person to pay me and I focus on someone else and serving someone else, the payment would come through. And I really felt it was a lesson in abundance for us to see like money is all around us. There's infinite ways. And whether I need to pick up a bartending shift after going 3 months without having to do that and thinking that life was behind me, I'm
Yeah,
just beneath whatever it takes to make my dreams come true. I
right.
will do whatever it takes to make my dreams come true. And a part of that dream is me being someone who is not a liability, someone who is an asset to everyone, including my kids. I'm an asset. And even as a single mom, I didn't want my kids worrying about me financially later in life. I wanted to be an asset to them. I wanted to be able to provide for them. And of course, there were moments when I couldn't be the generous. I wanted to be able to pick up the tab for my friends like they would do for me. But
Right.
then you get to live in the duality again, and you get to say, you know what? By giving them the opportunity to give to me, by receiving and just being fully in receiving and being in gratitude in that moment when I couldn't give to other people. And I said, this means so much to me that you just cover the bill. Thank you so much. I was giving to them.
Yeah, we forget that. I'm really guilty of that one for sure. Like,
Yeah.
fully receiving and not feeling like you have to reciprocate right away. But I just wanna, like, highlight the piece around the non-attachment to, um, feeling like money needs to come in a certain way, and as you, like, release that and focus your energy on something else, like, it's that faith and belief and trust that I think is a skill that also needs to be, like, built out when you're
Mhm.
trying to build your YOLO life or your bucket life, which is the next question I wanted to ask you. If, I'm trying to encourage people to go out there and live their best life because you only live once, and to take the trip because we don't know if next year is guaranteed. And a lot of people come with a lot of money objections around that. So,
Mhm.
what would you say to someone who's worried about money getting in the way or money being an inhibitor to living their most vibrant, alive life? And can you give us some like tools or
Yeah.
tips?
I think that uh, whenever I have a desire, I just know it's meant to be there. Like, and I just desire a lot of amazing things. I desire luxury experiences. I desire travel. I desire, once in a lifetime moments. And so I think, okay, here's the math. Like, I'm meant to have these experiences. And so it's my job to become someone who can have those experiences. And so that's why, like, I very quickly got rid of any story that wasn't serving that. So when I was having this story of like, oh, I don't really think money matters that much because I don't want to be stressed out and I don't want to be like missing my kid's life and it doesn't matter to me that much. I was like, well, instead of being an or, can I be an and? Like, yes, I don't need this trip to be happy, but also I want to go on this trip. So
Right.
I'm going to focus all of my energy and intention on becoming someone who can afford to go on these trips. And you can have these across all of the games. Like, I had this client that came in, my mastermind is $18,000. It's certainly an investment. And so for women that are making good money, some of my clients come in, maybe they're making like at the lowest end, like 75 grand a year, and they want to make 200K. And let's say they make 200K, but their thought is, I can only invest in this one time because they haven't become the person who just invests 18K regularly. They,
Mhm,
they don't
mhm.
they don't associate that as the piece. We tend to just want to focus on the earnings game and the spending game and not the savings game, the investing game, the net worth game. So I like to ask higher quality questions, which are like, what if this year could be my highest earning, spending, saving, investing,
Yeah,
habit giving year? Like, what if I didn't have to choose between one or the other? And then when you give your brain that equation, it will solve for it. And I just watch
yeah,
people solving for worse equations. I'm like, why are you spending your
yeah,
energy arguing for why you have to choose between, taking a vacation with your family and going and doing a personal development retreat? Like, absolutely not. I am not going to create an equation that makes me have to choose between which version of myself I want to be. I want to be able to go with my girlfriends from my college to the Hamptons in 2 weeks. The week after that,
yeah.
I'm leading my own retreat that is costing me multiple, like 20K plus, then plus the week after is my husband's birthday and we're going to go to Vegas, whatever he wants to do. And then we're moving into a new house and that's going to cost us tons of money. And it's like, okay, as this increases, as this lifestyle decreases, constantly asking those questions,
Yeah.
what matters to me? What pieces of my spending actually don't matter that much? I've stopped spending on clothes like altogether. And I love clothes. You know me. I love fashion. And I've been like, actually, it's just it fall into a lower priority right now. Like, there are other
Mhm.
things that really matter to me. Nothing matters more than being able to say yes to
Yeah.
the people that I love and being there.
So, basically what I think I hear you're saying is, like, stop focusing on all of the ways that you can't, all the reasons why you can't do something, which I think is a very common, I wanna call it like a pandemic, because it really is. It's like we're afraid to, we look for all the reasons not to, the excuses not to, before we even build out that desire. And so much of
Mhm.
what I've heard from you today is about, like, really building out the desire and who
Mhm.
I need to become and all of the different actions and moves that I can make, and getting creative with my finances and my resources, whether it's budgeting, whether it's investing, like all the different money games that you talked about, in order to do the thing that I want to do. And also noticing that, like, I'm going to be okay if it doesn't happen, because that
Yes.
is the scarcity that
Yes.
fosters that sense of safety.
So I
Um,
was just unwilling to go into debt that I didn't have a short-term plan to eliminate. Like, I'll put things on credit cards that I don't have the money for yet, and then I'll just make the money.
mhm.
But I would also be willing to pull back expenses if I didn't make the money
Yeah.
temporarily.
Yeah.
But I'm going to. I that is like my plan Z, is
Yeah.
to not do it. Like,
Totally.
but
Well, and
I'm
I
willing
think
to not do it.
and you get better at it with time. I remember just, like, going back to, like, the first big investments I made with myself, and even, like, my trip to Bali, which was, like, a full month there. I I had all the reasons not to, but I just kinda sat with the discomfort, because I was like, "This is what I want for my family. This is an experience that they'll
Mhm.
never get back." And I was just like, "I trust that I'll figure out a way to make it work." And I did. Like, I ended up renting my house.
Yeah.
Money came in other ways that I didn't anticipate, but it really was, like, that belief that, like, I'm going to figure this out, because I am a resource-oriented person. I'm a problem solver. Like, I can figure it out. And, like, if you really go to, like, the worst case situation, it's like, yeah, I'll go back into, like, a 9 to 5 job, or, like, pick
Yeah.
up some other shifts. Like, it's really not that bad, but our mind creates this, like, doomsday story of what's gonna happen if the money doesn't come in.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like people just stop trying, they give up too
they
quick,
stop
I think,
trying.
is
That's
my
it.
perspective, and the reason they stop trying and they give up is because they haven't created a scenario in which they have it all. And my
Right. They
recommendation
don't believe it, yeah.
to my clients at all times is like, paint a vision, and more importantly, create the math problem, run the numbers of what it would take for you to win at everything. And
Yeah.
that is like what sets me free. Like, again, it requires a bit of financial literacy. It requires looking at numbers. Not, I don't say like, oh, okay, you want to do it. What I help my clients stop doing is closing their eyes, crossing their fingers, and being like, YOLO, like, I'm just going to do it and not really think about it.
Yeah,
But
you have to
this
have a
little
plan.
life is so important because you should be saying yes to your desires. And we can also plan and put all of our energy into the best case scenario, and
Yeah.
just be okay with and willing and energetically like make peace with the worst case scenario.
Well, yeah, and I just wanna name too, like, everyone's situation is so incredibly different. I think it's really
Mhm.
easy to compare yourself to, I don't know, my situation, be like, "Oh my god, she, like, put her whole family on the line to go to Bali," and it's like, that's not the whole story. Like, I do have a safety net, and, like, you know, the financial safety is a real thing, and so just compassion for wherever you are at in this journey,
Mhm.
and but trusting too that, like, if you are in a situation that you don't like financially right now, that exercise the belief, exercise the desire, hold the vision, and become that version, because you've done that. You've coached so many people through that. And I have one more question for you before I want to know where people can reach you. But because life is short and we only get one shot at this. So if you were to be lying on your deathbed and looking back on your life, like, what is a life well lived to you? I ask everyone this.
Hmm. To me, it's a life well lived is saying yes to your dreams, and like really saying, I put my all into living the life that I desired for myself. Like, I was willing to be brave, I was willing to take risks. And also that, like, I appreciated what was in front of me as it was in front of me.
Mm, mm.
I like have this practice similar to like hugging my kids before they leave. I currently have like I'm congested, right? And like can't breathe out of one of my nostrils. And whenever this happens, I have this like funny little joke with myself where I like pray to God and I think like, I promise you, God, that when I can breathe out of both of my nostrils, I will not take it for granted. I will breathe fully through both of my nostrils, and I will just bow to you, and I will just love it. And I do. I sometimes I say to my husband, "Can you believe that we can breathe out of both of our nostrils today?" And I literally it's such a fun reminder that there's infinite things that we're
Yeah.
taking for granted. And I think a life well lived is finding minute opportunities to deeply in your body appreciate something that nobody on the earth other than you is appreciating in this
I
moment.
love that so much. When you were talking about, really giving your holding your dreams and, you're giving it your best shot to go after your dreams, to create that dream life, I got that song, I did it all. You know that one?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, and yeah, my son loves that band. Yeah, I get emotional. I'm a singer and I'm an artist, first and foremost, and I think that when I started realizing, okay, how do I get paid for my art? I
yeah.
sincerely, have a gift for my art and appreciation, and I think the world values art way more than we give it credit
Oh
for.
my
We think
god,
"Oh, the world
totally.
doesn't value art," and, art is changing and the mediums are changing that people are willing to pay for, and AI and, all the things, we're not gonna get
Yeah.
into it, but it's I really think that, when you can just decide, "People love to pay me for the talents that I have," and you just, believe that with all of your heart, like,
I need
crazy.
to write that down. People love to pay me for the talents that I have.
Yes, and it's really true, and I think that, I have an offer right now. I love to give real tangible examples because,
Yes.
it's easy for me to be like, "Yeah," and just, do the math and then focus on it and believe. It's like, "Okay, how do I do that actually?" And there was, when I was pregnant with my daughter and I wanted to take a maternity leave, a 3-month maternity leave. I was like, "I really want this," but we also just bought a house. We were I was transitioning from one-on-one to group coaching for more time and flexibility. So I was like,
Mhm.
it's going to be hard to sell. I've never really sold it. I had every objection in the world to taking the time because I was like, oh, we decided also to have a wedding and I wanted this wedding. I had I everything that I wanted would mean that I would have to have my highest earning, my highest spending, my highest saving. I had just automated my investments, to the point I was like, "Do I have to stop that? I just started it," right? Because I didn't yet believe that you could do all of these things at the same time. And I said, okay, I'm going to create this equation and I'm going to, what would have to happen? Higher
Mhm.
quality questions arise when you don't give yourself the plan B right away and you're not focusing. Most of my energy is on plan B, but maybe we'll just hope that plan A
Right.
essentially happens. No, plan A is the hardest plan because it's the best one. So you better put your fucking all and your energy into plan A. And when the second that you give yourself that out and you're like, well, it's probably not going to happen, you might as well not even try. You have to practice believing till the final moment. And I was just like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sell myself. I love sales and I'm like, I'm just going to sell myself on why this is a no brainer. People are going to, of course, want to pay for a 6-month mastermind, group coaching, where I'm only there for 3 months of it, and the other 3 months is random guest coaches that they've never experienced before. Well, of course, when I phrase it like that in my stupid complaining brain, it's not gonna be very attractive. Okay, I had to work on it. And so, the long story short is really, all of this is, you have to be your number 1 customer for your dream
Yeah.
life before you expect other people to invest in it and to buy it and to believe in it. And whether you were an entrepreneur or not, you get this one life to believe that you can have I did it
Well,
all.
it all. And I mean, to think lying on your deathbed, it's like, why didn't I just believe in myself? Why did I doubt my capabilities, right? It's like when you think about how fear kills so many dreams than failure, and that usually the reason why people don't do it is because they don't wanna fail or they don't wanna be disappointed, they don't wanna feel the pain of rejection and loss. It's like God, like, we just have such a short amount of time. Like, why the fuck not? Like, why didn't I go for it? And I think that's another top regret of the dying is living a life of somebody else's truth instead of their own. So all of
Mhm.
these things come into perspective. And I just think it's so beautiful. Your mindset, the vision that you've held, the life that you've created, and how you're helping so many other women do the same. So where can people reach you for all the things?
Yeah, of course. I hang out mostly on Instagram. You can connect with me over there at Jess McKinley Uyeno, JessMcKinleyUyeno. It's very Japanese. But yeah, also like I just want to say one last thing, which is that I think a sentence that I think every time I get like I'm planning this retreat, I'm about to like leave and do I'm in the like life that I desired, right? But I'm also in the math of it, which means there's a lot of money flowing out of my account that is higher than what is normalized for me because I'm always doing that, right? I'm always stretching and expanding what's normal for me. And so like I did it all, but like it doesn't feel comfortable. And so when I get to this space where I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm human too. Like I absolutely feel that ping of scarcity of like, is this going to be the moment where I pushed it too
Right.
far and I actually can't have it all? Like I've had it all up to this point, but was that all a lie? And like the future is like your brain will play tricks on you, especially if you're sick or tired or haven't had sunshine. Check on those first.
Yes.
But then mostly the sentence that really like saves me is like, it's all made up anyway. it's it's all made up. We're playing a game. And then I think like I also just like I look at my family, I look at my husband, I'll give him a hug and I'll be like, okay, if I completely fail and I make $0, will you still love me? Or I'll
So
just say to
true.
mom or to my kids and I'll just like, your best friend, whoever that is that you can go to in comfort when you're having a moment of scarcity, because you don't have to do this alone. Like, don't do it alone. I do it in community. I get myself around other people who are
Yes.
making more than I am making, who are taking risks, who are living the life that I want to live, like who are free and relaxed and who are traveling and like all these things that you desire. You have to surround yourself with other people that align to the life that you desire. And then it actually is easier to do.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I mean, I think of all the negative money stories and I know exactly where they come from and why, and I when I've been around that voice too long, I'm like, "Okay, I need to, like, detoxify and, like, get back in the room with other people who are doing the things that I wanna do, living the life that I want to live because it's so important." It's literally, like, contagious, that energy, and you like, belief is the number one more than anything we've talked about today, than any, like, money advice, any investing, which all matters, but it starts with belief.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like,
Amazing.
that's the whole foundation.
Yeah, and, like, you don't like, maybe you are finding this podcast because, like, you are just, like, questioning all of your beliefs because you're in the deep phases of grief, and it's a sacred space to be, like, let yourself question everything that you believe, and that's okay, and,
Mhm.
surround yourself with other people who can, like, hold you in that moment, and when I was questioning what was true and what wasn't true, and if I believed in love, I was such a romantic, and here I am getting divorced, I didn't really think that was possible for me, like, I never and, I'm remarried, and I, am like wealthy, all of the things that I thought that I had lost permanently, it really was temporary. Life has a way of doing that and moving
Yeah. Yeah.
forward. And certain things are permanent, but certain other things, your new life is always being reborn.
I think that there's a significant tie to money and a life well lived,
Mm,
for all the reasons that we mentioned, that it all matters and it doesn't matters, but it is the currency that we have here to get from A to B in a lot of different ways, right?
yeah, hell
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And if you
It's
guys are podcasters, you can listen to my
yes.
podcast, Fun Money. And again, you can just search Fun Money and my name, or just like DM me on Instagram. I want to hear like, oh, I heard you on Emily's podcast and Death and Disco. I just want to hear what resonated with you. Oh, that's the weird thing about podcasts. It's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, so many people are listening to this. And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, what were they thinking? I want I'd love to know, so
We
I'm
need the after party.
yeah, the
Yes.
after party.
So absolutely connect with Jess via Instagram. Drop your comments below. We're going to link everything so that you guys can check out all of her amazing work. And thank you, Jess, so much for coming on the show. This was such a juicy conversation. I know we could riff on this for like another hour. Thank you, Jess. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you on another show soon.
Bye, guys.